and welcome back to Master Site. Today I have game 2 from Lady of the Lake. I will be playing against Jeff Schultgin and his Varangur. So, for those that don't know, Jeff Schultgin is one of the top players in the U.S. I believe he finished second master this year. I think he was also even like up there with second Paragon. So, all around, Jeff is just a great player, great guy in the community. And Jeff and I go a ways back in Kings of War. I think Jeff is probably the person that I have the most tournament games against um, in Kings of War of anybody. So I would probably venture to say even more than like some local club mates and whatnot too. So Jeff and I go way back. It seemed like every event that we've both been a part of, we always end up playing each other. Um, and same thing here this time. So I would say that Jeff definitely has the better end of the record in our rivalry, but recently I've been pulling it back. It wasn't until Renegade 2021 I think that I finally got my first win against Jeff ever. But now, and I think he beat me shortly there after that as well. I think it might have even been at Masters. And then now, Jeff has returned to the channel because he and I played at Adepticon, where I was playing Night Stalkers, he was playing Ogres, and I was lucky enough to beat him there. So let's see how this match ends up for us here. So Jeff Sparringer, he was playing something different. He was playing as Ogres for Masters prep, but now that Masters is over, he wanted to do something a little different. So um, let's take a look at his Varinger list. So he's got 3 regiments of Night Raiders, I should say it's also the new 2023 Varinger. So he has a Scarl unit with Orb of Towering Presence, 2 Hordes of Snow Trolls, one with Fury, the other with Headstrong, Mounted Sons with Stealthy and Helm of the Drunken Ram. He has 3 Thanes on Frostfangs, a Lord on Frostfang with Snow Fox and Pipes of Terror, Snow Troll primes 3 of them as well. So it comes out to 14 drops, 26 unit strength. And there is the handsome bald man himself. I love this. Love this picture or this shirt on him as well. So he had his kid along with him for the weekend of the tournament. He had his son Tyler has been with him for past several events. I think he was at Masters. But surviving fatherhood, 1 beer at a time. And then here's a little bit of his army. I actually didn't get a picture before the game with everything set up on the display board, but Jeff always has just great stuff. So we'll get a better look here shortly. So for scenarios, I looked at his army and decided that I wanted to, again, kind of try and spread the field out. I feel like if we get in a close quarter punching match, all those nimble 50 millimeter characters are just going to get flanks and get around things and get to places I don't want them. So I decide we need to play some control for this one. So for Lady, you get 1 battle point if you control at least 2 zones at the end of the game. You get 1 battle point for controlling the center square on your opponent's half, and they don't have the center square on your half. Is that all? Oh, so 1 if you win the scenario as well. I missed that part. So we're looking to control at least 2 zones, win the scenario, control the centers, basically control both centers. And Jeff decided he wants to get into Scrum in the middle, and so he picked Dominate. So for this one, the Knight Champion is actually worth extra unit strength. So normally it's worth 1. It's worth 3 for the purposes of Dominate. If you win the scenario, you get 1 battle point. If you have 50% more unit strength rounded up than your opponent, you gain an additional battle point. And if your Knight Champion is in the Dominate circle at the end, you get another battle point. So here is our table. I didn't get a picture before we put stuff down, but all these flat pieces here, those are all forests. We, of course, removed the trees. So we got 4 forests here, a giant hill on the left-hand side, which that extends all the way to the board edge. Right next to which there's impassable, another building impassable, and then a lone single fence jutting out from this one here. Again, Lady doesn't have a whole lot of terrain, but large pieces in general. So from left to right on Jeff's deployment, he put his Cav unit in the back, the Suns. He has one of the Thanes on Frostfang. The Lord on Frostfang is the kind of the bigger guy here. He has one of his Snow Troll Primes. He then has the Huskarl unit, another Thane on Frostfang. Night Raider, one of the Snow Trolls hordes. Snow Troll Prime, another Night Raider in the middle. Snow Troll Horde back here. Night Raiders, another Snow Troll character. He then has his last Thane on Frostfang here, and his Knight Champion here. I have Militia Mob on the right with a General. He's actually looking forward, but because of the Dragon's Head, it doesn't fit very well. So my horde of bowmen with both of my ballistas adjacent to them. I have the Pegasus hero behind that. A spear phalanx here. In the middle, I have a giant with my knight champion. Horde of polearms, the captain, Pega hero, a beast cav. And on the far left flank, again, I only rolled 1 for my redeployment. I actually just moved this general on wing beast over. He was more further over to this side of the building. I just moved him over to this side after seeing what Jeff did. But I have my general on wing beast. My spearmen are here in front of him. Militia mob in the center of that formation, and a giant. Again, facing forward, but because he has a giant club, he's turned. So, roll off for first turn, and Jeff gets the honors. So he pushes up quite aggressively, as I would expect. And this is how the table looks. Moved all those faster characters up, threatening. He could see over the hill with all of them anyway, being height 4, but a lot of them are touching the hill at the very least. Still out of range of me with my giant and any of my infantry there. Doesn't have the range. He has the throwing axes on his Night Raiders, so he's just moving up. Knows that he wants to come forward, control that dominate circle, which, all these units definitely have me beat in the middle at this point. And then the couple units on the right flank, I'm just trying to keep him honest over here. If he comes in towards the center, I'll just push these guys up, and we're playing control as one of the scenarios, so I'll keep them safe with militia mob. Don't really want any part of this engagement at all. So yeah. So on to my turn. Kind of expected with what Jeff was doing over there. And then my turn, I don't really advance much in the right or the middle. I do advance a little bit on the left just to get anchored on that building section there. Yeah, otherwise, I back up the general here a little bit and pivot a little more to look in towards the center as well. I'm out of range of being charged by his characters with that, so I just want to get an angle, get some options if he does come in towards the center. On my left, there is some tactical decisions being made with this particular movement here. So the big thing is the giant's positioning. So right now, the giant is positioned to where this Thane on Frostfang's in his flank, but if he takes that flank, then the Cav, which I did put in range to charge, can't fit in front. So but he can take the flank on a Thane and the front on a character, but he doesn't want any of this giant with those characters at all. He would much rather have the Cav in combat with the giant. So I did position the spear phalanx obviously to be a little bit more aggressive here. They are not touching the hill, although touching the hill wouldn't have really mattered. It would only allow the Cav unit to charge them. But and then the general's position for flanks. So at this point, the militia mob are staying a little bit further back on purpose. The only things that can charge them is one of these, and right behind this, there's actually another one. I don't know if we get a better picture of that, but here we go. So there's actually another Thane on Frostfang right there. So basically, I'm setting it up as kind of a little bit of a trap. I don't think he has great options of engaging on this flank here. Because if he comes into the giant, the main thing that I did set up is that the giant can see whatever comes into the front of the militia mob. So if he takes one of these 50 millimeter guys into the militia mob, the giant can see it and can perfectly 90-degree pivot without doing a withdraw and hit the flank of that model that's there. So, and then the general can do the same, hit the flank of whatever models that's sitting there. Or if he chooses not to charge the militia mob, the general can hit the flank of whatever hits the giant. So it's one of those where I tried to not give Jeff any good options in this engagement. And the spear phalanx just he's going to be -2 for everything charging the spear phalanx here, so I'm not really worried about that unit when it's full health at this point. I just know it's going to stick around. And then in the center, I push up a little bit just to project threat, and then I actually end up backing up with some stuff and side shuffling just to prevent his Night Raiders from getting shots off. So my goal here is to actually shoot the center Night Raider unit. I want to make a hole in the middle of the army, which is where these guys can really keep the pressure on. Whereas if I don't take these guys out, I feel like he can just run forward and force an engagement with my giant and be able to push forward with the rest of the units. So I want to take out that chaff unit that's looking to just run at my giant at this point. If I can. The Night Raiders are stealthy though, so I don't have great shots of killing them. I'm just kind of hoping for a waiver, and any wounds that I do will stick. So maybe I'll get them the following turn. But shooting smiled upon me. I rolled a ton of sixes for my bowman horde. I think I got like 5 wounds out of them alone, and then I think I did another like 3 or 4 wounds from the ballistas. And so we got lucky and we picked up a regiment that we probably shouldn't have at the very beginning of the game here. So very very surprised, very happy with that, and that really opens up the middle more for me here. So on Jeff's turn, he again pushes up fairly aggressively here. He brings the can't really see it, but brings the Knight Champion into the combat over here. He starts moving the Thane towards the center. Don't blame him at all there. I think the Knight Champion's all he needs. I should say his Knight Champion had I think it was Staying Stone and the Gnome Glass Shield, so he went pretty defensive on his Knight Champion. And since he's an evil class, it has the Cloak of Death, and then also Vicious and Life Leech. So it it's really not going anywhere. I'm not gonna try to kill this Knight Champion at all. It's just gonna be too difficult. So, but he does commit heavily on the left side, as you know. I don't know if I say I expected it, but it's something that I don't blame him for doing it. I think that I set it up to where I'm going to have play options there where I think he was hoping to just jam me up over here and eventually win the grind. So, um, yeah, so he throws a couple of Night Raider shots. I don't think he does much of anything at the giant in cover. And I have a bark skin token with the guy sitting right there. So a little bit closer look. There's his character in. Obviously, because of the way it's based, it just doesn't fit, but it's actually in there. Center, and then let's look at the left a little bit. So this hill's causing issues for us. To his lord and a Thane on Frostfang are actually directly in front here, but because hills, they don't fit. And then it also is forcing this cav unit to be sliding and whatnot. So again, I told Jeff when he was going to charge in and before he committed to doing everything, that because he originally was going to put his lord into this unit, and I explained to him that I set it up to where the giant is going to be able to charge whatever you put into this unit. Because if he had charged the cavalry in first, they're going to be overhanging too far, that there's no room to fit anything to get into that unit. Which then leaves the cavalry open to a double flank charge from the militia and the general on Winged Beast here. So he definitely wanted to put a unit into the militia mob to protect the flank of the cavalry, but he ended up switching it to where it was a Thane instead. So um, over on the right, he wavers my militia mob. As we come to know and love with militia mobs, they love getting wavered. I think his Night Raiders did a wound on these guys over here. Or no, that was the Cloak of Death that he had. He does only 3 wounds between his Thane on Frostfang and his Lord, which is about right. He does have Brutal on the Lord, but he gets a waiver out of it. So I'm not going to be fighting back, which isn't the end of the world. It's kind of nice to fight back and strip the Thunderous off of one of these guys, specifically the Lord, being on the inside of that section there. But they lived. That's the main thing. And then he does 4 wounds. I think he also wavers these guys, but even if he didn't, I'm going to have to back out if I want to get any sort of flanks. And then he did like 8 wounds, 8 or 9 wounds to the giant, and no waver or anything, which is important because if he did waver the giant, I can actually take the charge onto the Thane in the flank there, because Fury, I'd only be able to countercharge. So this is the board state at the beginning of my bottom of 2 for me. And this is after everything moved and all that stuff. So, or did I skip? Yeah. The other thing I forgot to mention was he moved up his ogre character here out of front arc of the giant. Um, but as we see here, that did put him just within range of the captain, or not the captain, the general on Winged Beast, and it was a flank charge. And then I took my Pegasus into the front as well. So went ahead and did that. Moved these guys. So we'll get a little closer. But maybe we won't. I didn't take good pictures of this one. A little bit more of a stressful game. Sorry, guys. But I moved up the spear phalanx so that way the Night Raiders are still in the front, and we're yeah. I just wanted this particular angle. to protect the giant's flank from, I'm not sure what. Anyway, uh, oh, that's what I was doing. I'm looking so that if his Thane here can see my horde, he can charge my bowman horde. My spear phalanx is going to be able to countercharge into the flank of the Thane if he does that. And then also, if I kill this character, I'm able to pivot in such a way that I'm out of the front arc of the Thane. But if I don't kill it, he's going to get a flank or a rear charge on my general there. Um, so, but taking the risk. So, over on the left, it's just been a little bit of shuffling with these guys. I actually run the captain over because I want the rally bubble on these units over here. And I just am avoiding engagements over here. He's threw some throwing axes at the pole arms last turn. And then over on the far left, we did what we were planning on, which was disengaging from the regiment or the knights and hitting the flank of this Thane. I have to do a 2-inch overrun to get out of the front arc then of the knights with the giant, and I just simply have to back up 1 inch, which is always guaranteed with the general, in order to make room for that. So this is actually onto. Uh, okay, so this is the end of combat here. So I do kill the character, and I haven't repositioned yet. I think I was remembered halfway through. Oh, I didn't take pictures, so um, yeah. So I had already rolled for that combat, but here's a little bit better look. So giant into the flank there with the general in the flank. Just overkill because I know sometimes these giants can flub. Okay, so here's after combat. I reform to be out of the arc. The Pegasus is actually here facing that way. My giant and general do kill the Thane. I back up with my general and my giant overruns, getting out of the front arc as we were intending. My uh, regiment here is also out of the front arc, so these knights are looking off to nowhere right now. One thing I should say too is that I actually flew my other hero Pegasus over because I was wavered with these spear phalanx that I wasn't able to strip the nimble off of the Lord on Frostfang that it was engaged. So there was a possibility of these knights sidestepping far enough to open a gap for the Lord on Frostfang to nimble charge through and get to the giant's flank. So in order to prevent that, I flew the Pegasus hero over top, preventing a sidestep because they would come within an inch of the Pegasus. So little tips to make sure the plan goes without a hitch. I think it was worth it for a 90-point character. So on Jeff's turn, he ends up engaging with most of his stuff here. Also, I should say I put a decent number of wounds on this unit with my shooting. I don't think I didn't waver it. He just elected to shoot me this turn. So he stays engaged on the right. He moves up the Thane because he couldn't see any of the things he really wanted. He didn't want to go into a fresh horde over here without any way of escaping. So he just moves up to get some better angles here. What's it called? I'm in the flank, so I can't even charge him with the horde to block him off. He was able to. He actually has to move this unit. We discussed, but he ended up doing it. He was able to get his snow trolls into the general here, and they weren't. He was able to even do it without being hindered because it was a front charge. So we'll see that those guys will move, but and then he's just repositioning, moved up so that way he could throw some more axes at the horde over here. And then he had to just, he looked at this flank for a long time to see what his options were, and in the end, he realized he had to just reform the cav, and then just keep pounding in over here. So that's what he ended up doing. He did take the flank on the Peg Hero, which he had kept a Snow Troll character in the back to prevent my general from just jumping the lines and turning in towards the center. So his Knight Champion kills my Militia Mob. Kind of expected. I ran the Inspiring away, so they were going to die. And he elected to overrun, so that way he has options over here. He does only 4 wounds to my general, but he does get a waiver, which is pretty important here because this general does have a lot of options as far as because his unit is actually up against where the general is, so the general can see over top of him, and there's a easy flank right there. So I could have gotten away from these guys and gotten into the flank of these guys here because he shot at this Peg Hero but did not get a waiver on him. So he's going to be able to fly off and do some things. So pretty important and impactful waiver there for Jeff. Unfortunate number of wounds done though, absolutely. He does get another waiver over here, doing 6 wounds into the flank of this hero. And then didn't really say, but he this is one of the turns where between the two, the Thane and the Lord, into the spear phalanx, he got 0 wounds total. I think he had like 1 or 2 hits between both of them and rolled 2 1s to wound. So it was just unfortunate for him on those rolls there. But spear phalanx holding up 2 mounted characters is pretty expected. I just think he wanted to have some more wounds because after about 3 turns of grinding through them, they should be picking them up. So this jumps forward a little bit here, but over back on the right hand side, the general that was wavered backs up. The spear phalanx was actually in the flank of these guys, so took that. The Pegasus hero had to fly off first and went into these guys just to hold them up. And my giant was in the flank of the regiment of infantry, the Night Raiders, which already had some wounds on him from the shooting, so I felt pretty confident that he would be able to pick them up. So I went ahead and took that. On the left, I charged the Horde into the other Night Raiders, which I think this may have been a slight mistake from Jeff. I think he possibly could have backed up his Night Raider unit to still be within 12 inches, but out of my 10-inch charge range of the Horde. I'm not sure if he was just really wanting to force the engagement, but I felt like this was better for him as a standoff and just keep throwing axes. But he stayed in range. He threw axes. I went in and picked up the Horde. I brought the Knight Champion in as well. And combat reform, I just backed up the Knight Champion so that way he doesn't get charged by Huskarls and then overran into these guys for, just want to avoid that. And then on the left, I went ahead and double charged the knight units with the militia and the general on wing beasts, mostly to protect the spear phalanx at this point. And just kind of keep holding up this flank. So we're doing our job over there. Want to hold that up. I feel much better about the middle at this point. We're picking up units left and right. We're holding stuff in place. So this is what the board looks like going into Jeff's turn. So this would be 2, 3. I think this is top of 4, if memory serves me right. But at this point in the game, we realized that if you go back and look, the clock was actually on the other side initially. And we realized that at some point, one of the turns of mine was done on Jeff's clock. So um, it was really tough to tell exactly where we were, but I had about 30 minutes left in total, and I don't remember how much time I took for that particular turn. But either way, Jeff just switched it over here, and it's like, well, we'll try to make it work. But yeah, I feel bad because I know I'm not playing as fast as I could be with a newer army and whatnot. But yeah, the time getting messed up is unfortunate. So we both pretty much knew that the time wasn't going to be something that we were going to hold each other closely to because of that mistake. So. But anyway, top of Jeff's turns, what it looks like, and then after his movement, or actually after combat. So again, apologize, guys, didn't get all the pictures that I normally would. But Jeff, pretty easy here. Jeff double charged. So what he did, and I guess it should be said, I didn't mention the giant just walked through the units over to here for that double charge to happen on the cab. I probably moved him a little too far. I think I could have held him back a little bit for a better angle here, but Jeff did a very good play. He charged the regiment, and he did so where the character, this Snow Troll character, wasn't in the combat. He was just in position to force the Huskarls as far over to this side as possible. So that way, after they kill the unit and back up at least 1 inch, he's out of front arc, and this character's also out of front arc of the giant. So he did very good play with that to protect his unit from a double charge for this next turn. He then killed off the peg hero with over here. On the left, he killed off the other peg hero, and again, he is just grinding away. So this time, he came in and he did, I think it was 6 or 7 wounds total to the regiment. So he did a lot better because I think he only had 3 or 4 for the first turn that he was engaged, and then 0, maybe 1 for the second turn. So he spiked a good roll against them, but with the captain there inspiring and giving rally, it was only a waiver. I think he was right on the waiver, so it was a 15 total. So if the captain wasn't there, this unit would have been gone. And I forgot to mention, I actually got really lucky where I got a lucky waiver roll onto his regiment of cav with my double charge over here. So he was stuck this turn. And then on the far right, I didn't get a picture of it, but he went ahead and charged the rear of the unit. He also charged the general with the Thane, the general on Wing Beast that was over here that was wavered. I had to back him up, so he charged him in the flank. I picked him up, charged the front of the spear phalanx, and they're just fine. So my turn. Um, I went ahead and just stayed put with the horde. I didn't even want to withdraw or disengage because I had clear shots onto the Thane with the bolt throwers. And I think I had shot this guy before. Yeah, I shot this guy before. So he was already on a few wounds because when I took my general into that combat over here before, I wanted to see if I could get a lucky waiver that would open up my reform options. So I shot the bolt throwers at him this turn and picked him up. These guys just continue fighting, and then I took a double charge with my giant and my uh, lord over here because this unit is out of inspiring right now. So, in order for him to protect his Huskarls, he had to leave those guys out of the inspiring bubbles. So, went ahead and did that, and then I took the beast cav into the Huskarls, hoping, praying, but unfortunately, we'll see a trend here. The Beast Cav are not going to be answering prayers. So, and then I just continued with the combats over here. I did decide that it wasn't to my benefit to keep the general against um, these guys, the Mounted Suns. So I did have a lane where I could just pop over, pivot, and then threaten the flank of the Hearthguard, threaten the rear of the Cav, and threaten the rear of both of these characters, and being out of front arc of the Snow Troll that was here. So uh, at this point, I'm looking at the board as a whole, thinking that I have, if I kill this unit, I have the Dominate Circle in my control. I feel like the hero is controlled just because I have a block of nerve he has to go through, or he's just going to be running around and that'll take him a turn or two. And then I'm not terribly worried about these snow trolls breaking through, even though I don't have inspiring there right now, because I know I can bring some support over after if I can kill this unit off. So dominate's looking good. Control is kind of up in the air. I feel like control wise, Jeff is strong on the left hand side, but my goal is to try and control the center too, and maybe pick up one on the right. So that's really where I'm at with the scenarios at this point. So with that in mind, I felt it was better to keep my general out of any charge options this turn, so that way he can one, he forces all these units here. If they break anything, they're going to have to turn around at him, or he has just free rear charges. Um, that's going to keep Jeff on this side of the board, which is my ultimate goal for the scenario here. And two, I don't trust the Beast Cav, and I want to make sure I win the center over here, which is priority number one in my mind. So this is how it went. I do kill the snow trolls in the center here. Sidestep my hero so that the giant could pivot to look after the other snow trolls. Giant failures are coming through here. They're killing monstrous infantry at this point, which is what they're supposed to be doing. So, um, yeah. So and nothing else breaks. This is where the beast cav, do like 3 or 4 wounds or something. They just completely whiff, and then they get murdered in return. What is that? I did a couple more. I did like 6 wounds, 7 wounds maybe. Anyway, so this is again a little bit skipped ahead. Jeff murdered the beast cav. He went back into the archers on the right, and he went back into the spears on the right. He did get a waiver onto the spears this turn. It looks like they're up to 6 wounds total. And then the horde's up to 10 wounds, but they're at 20, 22. Even though they're not inspired, they're fine. So, and then he does kill the militia, and again has to turn around to face towards the general on winged beast over here. And then you'll notice that 10 wounds that was there before is still there because Jeff completely whiffed and did 0 wounds to the spear phalanx this turn. So that is turn 4 he's been in combat with them. So that is unfortunate for Jeff, absolutely. I think 3 turns, at most 4 turns, this unit should have died. He rolled probably average on one turn, below average on another, a little bit above average, and then now 0, so well below average. So, and when he rolled it, his face just dropped, and I think he realized that needed to be broken in order for these guys to be cleared up for scenario purposes. So, um, definitely got lucky on for me here. So again, it was kind of a tense game. Even though the clock got messed up, we were both trying to play quickly in general. So I skipped a few pictures here, but what ended up happening was This is actually a 2-turn skip, so that wing general that was over here ended up flying closer to the center here. I wasn't able to get into the flank of these guys, but I ended up not needing it. So he flew towards the center, and then now he's flying to the further to the right hand side of the board. My giant cleaned up the monstrous, snow trolls, and the archers actually charged into the flank as well. So between those two, we picked it up because he was just outside of inspiring range again. And then the giant turned because I needed this table quarter right over here. I had also, I guess the general, I think, was moved over and then was looking to make sure he wasn't going to move stuff further over to the center. So, um, and then, yeah, and we killed the Huskarls here with the giants. The captain went into one flank, the uh, Knight Champion went into the other flank. So this is, I believe this was bottom of 6. This is actually Jeff's turn, so this is top of 7. We did go one more turn. And so Jeff is going into the Spear Phalanx to try and finish them up. They were pretty heavily damaged, so. Um, and yeah, and then I had run the captain over to because the captain's mighty to pin down this regiment into the bottom left zone. I didn't want them to come into the center, bottom center, because even though I have control of the center, I don't have my. I only have 1 unit strength units left, basically, whereas that unit strength 3 would have been pretty much impossible to overcome for scenario purposes. So yeah, so it was just mopping up. Jeff does end up picking up that regiment, and then bottom of my turn, I just make sure I can get all the scenario points I can. I move the giant over here far enough so that it's in the top right. I have the 1 point unit strength from the Knight Champion in the top center, 1 point in the bottom center, and then my 1 point negates his 1 point in the bottom right. So he has 2 zones. I have 1, 2, 3. I control the 2 center. So that is a win the scenario for me, controlling 2 zones and controlling the center zones. So that's 3 points for control, the one that I chose. And then dominate, he wasn't able to get any unit strength in the center. So my 1 and then the Knight Champion actually counts as 4 or 3 for this one. So I have 4 in the center dominate circle to his 0. So I win the scenario and get the max points for the dominate as well. So I got 6 points for scenario. And then I had forgotten completely about the trying to control terrain pieces, which I don't think I could have gotten even if I remembered appropriately because of my movement the turn prior. But yeah, Jeff got the terrain. So here's a quick look at our score sheet to fill out that we filled out. So Jeff got 1 point because he controlled 2 zones for control, and that was that. We both got 2 points for attrition. Nobody killed over 1900. And then he got the terrain. So it ended up being an 8-4 victory for me in the end. So I consider myself extremely lucky. The general game plan worked out, but with certain things mixing it up along the way. I got good shooting early on, which always helps. I was able to hold my spear phalanx on the left flank was able to hold for 5 turns of combat, which is unreal. So being able to hold down a unit for an entire 2 units actually for the entire game with a 140-point unit is just ridiculous. And then I was able to really leverage the positioning on the left hand side to to my advantage so that I could buy time for the middle and the right flank eventually. To the right flank was more of a draw than a win, but the middle was definitely a win for me. So and in the end, with playing dominate and control, where the center being more important, that was just where it was. So um, in all, I think that I don't think Jeff necessarily made any mistakes in the game, but I think that he was looking at it and would definitely have done some things differently. I think the game plan he had could easily have worked out if he, wavers the giant on the turn that he comes in to charge it, or if he kills that spear phalanx in 3 turns instead of 5 on the left hand side. I think that those, a couple of those things would have changed the game drastically. And even if I don't pick up a Night Raider unit with shooting on turn 1, that also changes the game to where I don't think I get these 6 scenario points. I think it's much closer to a draw if any of those things go back towards Jeff's favor. So in the end, Jeff, great game as always. Very very gracious. I appreciate all the compliments and everything you tell me. Um, I still believe that you are the better player, and I think the record absolutely shows that. So until next time, we'll start it up again. Like I said, we've played probably a dozen times, and I think this is the 3rd time I've won. So you guys can do the math, but that's not a winning record. But I appreciate you all for watching, and that's going to be all for Game 2 of Lady. I hope you guys stick around and watch Game 3 in the next video. So thanks.